welcome to the Girl Grown channel. It's Georgia Rose. Today I'm going to be talking about the time that I moved to New York City completely alone, aged 23, to work in fashion. So how did a small town girl from a pissy little town outside of London end up in the big city? Well, it all started a few years before I actually moved to New York when I went on holiday to New York. And I went with a group of friends. It was one of the most fun trips I have ever taken in my life. We blagged our way into every top club, bar, restaurant in New York and just partied the entire time. So this one day, my friends want to go shopping. So I say to them, guys, I will see you back at the hotel at this time. Like, I want to get out. I want to do things. I want to see things. I can go to a department store in London. Like, this is lame. Bye. So I left and I'm walking down Fifth Avenue, minding my own business, loving life, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this overwhelming knowing, it wasn't a feeling, it was a knowing. I just knew. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to live here one day. So that was really weird, and that stayed with me, that feeling that I was going to live in New York. So came home, fast forward to the next year, I'm on some crazy trip in Morocco where I got on a bus for 3 weeks with people I didn't know, travelled around, climbed mountains, slept on hostel rooftops, slept out in the Sahara, blah, blah, blah. So I met this girl there who told me she was planning on moving to New York. So I'm like, okay, how are you doing that? Because I knew by this point that it was not easy to get to New York. You know, visas and all that kind of stuff is just... Anyway, so she told me about this program called the Mountbatten program, and it's essentially a work and study exchange scheme where, excuse the voice, American kids or young American people come to London to work and study, and Brits do the opposite in New York. So I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. So I found out a bit more about Mountbatten, and the application process was pretty rigorous. So exams and assessments and several interviews, references, all that kind of stuff. So it's not easy, but I did get accepted. And after they accept you onto the scheme, they try to find a company that matches your skills and experiences. So for me, I had interned at music and fashion PR companies in London. I'd interned at a luxury skincare brand. I was working at this incredible creative agency. So they deemed me an excellent fit for one of the most iconic advertising, but particularly fashion advertising agencies in New York, in the world, and of all time. Pretty much all of the iconic, sorry, the overuse of that word, fashion ads came out of this agency. Slight downside, however, was that the role was a receptionist role. Not dissing receptionists whatsoever, it's just simply that it wasn't my chosen career path. I already was a marketing executive and I thought I would go down that road. But the doubt lasted like 0.3 seconds, right? I'm 23, I'm getting the opportunity to move to New York. I would clean the toilets, like I don't care. And the other bonus was that when I had my interview with the company, they did allude to the fact that if I really prove myself, then there is scope for getting into other areas of the business. So that was all I needed to hear. I was like, sign me up, I'm in, nothing can get in my way. I think it was like the 21st of March, 2010, I packed up my life and got on a plane alone and just moved to New York, knowing nobody, having no real idea what was truly in store for me. Mountbatten actually give you an apartment to live in, and that's great, but the downside of that is that you have to share a room with 2 or 3 other people. I got put in a room with 2 really lovely girls, and that was such a relief because you don't know if you're going to get psychos, you don't know if you're going to get thieves who are going to steal your stuff. So yeah, it was really cool to be put in with Haley and Sally, who were awesome. Now, what I didn't know was going to be such a cool bonus element of being front of house, of being a receptionist, was that I would get to meet all of these celebs and superstars in the fashion industry and models and all that stuff. Everybody wanted an in at this agency. So I'd be like sitting manning the phones. In my waiting area, I'd have like top male models or owners of, or female models, or owners of photography agencies or stylists or whatever, and I would get to chat to all of these people, and I made so many friends that way and went out on dates with male models and, you know, owners of photography agencies, and made a lot of friends that way. As I said, something that I was so excited for, that I really did get such a true insight into, was what goes into these billboard ads or these beautiful ads that you see in magazines. I would see it from the client coming in to brief our team all the way through to, you know, the mood boarding stage, to the casting stage, to the shoot production stage, to the shoot day or days, to post-production to sign off. So I got to see that whole process. And the more I kind of got my feet under the table there, the more I got to step away from the phones and start to actually get involved. And working with the top art directors in the world and the top graphic designers and post-production people. And even, you know, it was my job to hire interns from New York's top design schools, and even getting to meet these up-and-coming creatives who really are now at the top of their game in New York. And that was very much my social life as well. I kind of got in with this group of up-and-coming photographers, actors, stylists, and they were like the cool kids around New York then, and now they're running W magazine, they're photographing for Vogue, they're acting in blockbuster films. I'd find myself at fashion parties and celeb parties. And just one little story, so I remember getting in the elevator, or waiting for the elevator in my building one morning. I was going to work, so I guess it was somewhere between 8 and 9 a.m. And there was this lady in front of me who was quite short, but she was wearing these enormous, like, fetish shoes. And she was wearing this crazy outfit, like amazing, but just like, dude, it's like 8 in the morning, where are you going? And all the like crazy bleach blonde hair and everything, but I could only see her from behind. She walks into the lift first and then turns around to sort of face outwards, and it's Lady Gaga. So rode the lift with Lady Gaga. I mentioned it when I got into work, and someone, because everyone's so blasé, they're like, well, yeah, she's shooting with Stephen Klein, obviously. So I'm like, okay. Yeah, I was totally cool too. So I am going to break my New York story into at least 2 videos. So this kind of concludes part 1. I just wanted to tell you how I ended up in New York, what the hell I was doing there, and give you a bit of an overview of my first year. In part 2, I'm going to talk a bit more about the absolute insane things that went down at that agency, from my boss forcing me into a car. Not just my boss, he was the owner of the company, forcing me into a car, booking a hair appointment with a top New York celebrity stylist, phoning the stylist and telling him what to do with my hair like I had no say in the matter. He did pay for it, but controlling vibes, like, have you ever heard of that? I'm going to tell you about the times that we found blood all over the walls in the bathroom, the time that I was forced to take my friend's job before she even knew that she was getting fired. This company sponsored my visa, and I ended up, when all my Mountbatten friends went home, I ended up staying in New York, which was amazing, but I did end up being fired over a technical issue that was not my fault, but that didn't come out until after. And that story also involves a top fashion designer and a critical email that I was supposed to send, not reaching him, and that got me fired. Because the thing is, in New York, you get fired like that. And I was devastated because I thought I'd really messed up, but it turned out that actually it was a technical error that got me fired. So I'm going to be telling you all about that. I'm going to be telling you a crazy Kanye West story, just so many things, so much tea. I'm going to draw a line under it, and I'm going to save it for my next video. Do let me know in the comments if you've got any questions about living in New York, about working in the fashion industry in New York, just anything else that you want me to talk about, and I'll make sure I cover that in part 2. So I'm sending you all lots of love, and I look forward to talking to you again really soon. Bye!